Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of NDPesic Group Unedited. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 2 of NDPesic Group Unedited. I am Deuce Pesic of NDPesic Group of Tallahassee, Florida. I did want to go ahead and mention that, in yesterday's episode, I mentioned today was a pivotal date in my life where it was pretty much, the aha moment. And as entrepreneurs, we all have that aha moment. And today I wanted to kind of show you the progression of where I started from and where I am today, to give you an idea of what I've been doing and what I'm hoping to do as far as execution and, to leave behind a legacy. 12 years ago, I have embarked on creating my own housing concept because the fabricated homes, the manufactured homes, awesome stuff, it just wasn't my taste. And I came about the Farnsworth house. I don't have any pictures of it, but do go to farnsworthhouse.org. Mid-century modern, 1951, built by famous architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. I fell in love with the home because it very modern for its era, and I'd love to see it today. Of course, I did change a few things up, as far as the original floor plan. I created it to where it became where it's going to be a standard. Everything from the footprint and then expanding out and up. So the reason that was important, this is circa 2003. The reason that became important is because I had figured out in a way with modern mending plates and connecting points that we could get away with not having weld points. Now, I go on a principle of if then. Well, if it doesn't need weld points, then that means it could be disassemblable, right? So, and that was the big premise because that was solving a problem that I had, because back then my son was 3 years old in 2003, and you worry as a parent. Well, what if his mom has an opportunity to move elsewhere, for job opportunities or whatever? I'm one of those guys. I'm not going to leave my son. That's just simple as that. I've been in a hospitality industry for 26 years, everything from hotels to restaurants, and I got to tell you, you see so many single parents, working, that I wasn't going to be that guy. I'm not. That's just not me. My son is my life, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life, by his side. That's just how it is. So not having faith in the market, this is 2003, I figure, the principle would be disassemble the home, and then all you really have to do is find a lot. The footing, when you see the pictures of the Farnsworth house, it's steel pier construction with glass walls. That's all it is. So obviously the foundation doesn't need much work, and with that said, it's more you can look at cost effectiveness in different ways. I'm looking at it, look, I'm not going to sit around and wait for my house to get sold before I relocate to be with my boy, and then go through the whole process of finding something else. And then, once again, with construction, it's all, on tastes of what the builders do. Obviously, yes, they do the research, what they're building, what homes are looking for, but I like a different lifestyle. I like openness. I like big rooms with different areas represented by furniture as opposed to walls representing a different room. I like openness. So I really couldn't find much at that time that the Farnsworth house was an awesome model to go by. So when I looked at countertops and, cabinetry and so forth. I found a steel manufacturer that went ahead and, gave me a decent price. Now, this going back to 2003, 2004, this was, 37 grand just for the steel. Just for the steel, where it did provide the everything from the purlins, the furlins, and the whole skeleton. I would provide the rest. Well, in looking at the costing and everything that was going on at the time, things were high cost back then. The housing market was in a boom. People were buying and stuff, but I just was like, So it pretty much wound up being that just the furnishings inside wound up being like 120 grand, 120, 130 grand. But, I liked some of the premium stuff, as far as, name brand cabinetry, flooring. I mean, you name it, it was there. Well, when I looked at that, because I wanted to keep the price low as far as resell, I'm sorry, I went a little too far. The concept came about that I was like, well, wow, if I could go ahead and sell maybe a half dozen of these homes to other people that might be interested, I could pay off my mortgage and then everything would be fine, right? Well, it came down to, well, I didn't want to advertise the home as high cost stuff because not everybody can afford a $2,000 vessel sink in a bathroom. I sure as hell can't, but I sure like the style. Well, that prompted me to work with concrete and with polymer resins, working on, doing backsplashes. I have my own concept of kitchen cabinetry. And what's interesting is all this is based around that particular home. Well, working with polymer resins and so forth, it wound up being that I wanted to go in that direction. So I was practicing a lot with the materials, obviously. I mean, I must have spent between 8 to 10 G's, just, $8 to $10,000 on materials, just, different, what binds together, what works together, what, maintenance, manufacture, all across the board. So I figured it out, and sure enough, somebody looked at that home and said, if you could figure out how to go ahead and make the walls collapse, then what you could do is you could actually sell these units to high-end beach resorts around the world and make each one a separate thing. They would bring out the chairs, they would, bring out, anything that's, obviously furnishings would have to be removable. You can't have like a fixed wall or anything like that. And, if you figure it out, then, if there's a storm coming through, they could drop the walls and so forth, and it won't be destructed. It'll just be, you'd be able to save the structure during the storm and have minimal damage, but yet offer a convenience to the vacationers that are there to have a place to get out of the sun for a moment. One could be a bar, one could be a shower stall, another could be a cabana, and so forth. The reason today was a pivotal day is because as I was drawing out how the collapsibility and the erection of the walls, on the news, I'm watching Hurricane Katrina is pounding New Orleans. So, and that was my aha moment. I'm looking at the TV, I'm looking at the plans, and I realize, wait a second, this isn't going to be for vacation stuff yet. Maybe later down the road, but the first priority is, let's go ahead and get these structures to aid people. So figured out, okay, looked at the different types of vertical transportation, helicopters and so forth, their uplift weights and so forth. So I was like, all right, well, one of the, we looked at what is it that we need on location. Well, obviously we need supplies. Well, we need supplies, but I didn't get, 200,000, 300,000 people like dying in like India and, various parts of the world where you had 120,000 deaths. To me, I can't understand those large numbers because you can't just wipe everything out just like that. Which led me to believe that if that's the case, then it means that a lot of people are suffering, waiting for aid to arrive. Well, a lot of people, in doing research and talking with doctors and nurses, a lot of people do die from from inflicted wounds, infections and so forth. So obviously the next thing we need is not just supplies, but the type of supplies and the people to administer that help. But also in our research and talking to the different medical professionals, it's hard to do the work under a tarp. And then at the same time, their lives are at stake because they don't have the protection from the elements. This is after the storm. After a storm or after a natural disaster, that there's no shelter for them and security to administer the work. So I said, all right. So today joining us are a couple of models of my friends. Friends stand for First Response Emergency Needs Dispatch Shelters. The premise is that the units are, and I don't know if you could see my little guy there, okay? These units are actually to scale, and my guy waving right there is scaled at 6 feet tall, okay? So each one of these units come up roughly right at the waist of an individual. They're 36 inches tall, but they're 15 feet wide. The smaller one, the 1223, is 25 feet long, and I don't know if you can see, the larger one is 50 feet long. And the reason I use those dimensions is to go ahead and, because 50 feet is one of the largest dimensions an average tractor trailer can pull. And 15 feet wide, even though it's a little bit on the outskirts, the premise is to get as much square footage to the location as possible. That way, if there's square footage, then obviously it opens up the door for medical professionals, volunteers, nurses, EMTs. More people will be able to come with the units because now they have the protection and overhead and a semi-sanitary facility for them to administer the work. So my units are 15 by 25 for the 1223 and then 15 by 50 for the 4944. So that's ND 1223 and ND 4944. The premise is that they get pulled up by a helicopter, taken to location, and they get dropped. Then what winds up happening is on a remote, some features, there are solar power package that's implemented in the units. So there's going to be ongoing power. The power is obviously necessary for every day, but it also provides that being that the electrical system will have auxiliary port to be able to charge prior. What will happen is the motors that are inside the units on a wired control box, within 10 minutes, the units can be erected. The walls get pushed up simultaneously, thus pushing the roof upwards. The medics, all they have to do is they have to, get this guy out here, and pretty much we'll put him right there. So what will wind up happening is now you have like a MASH unit, a mobile facility to administer help. What's interesting is that I do have some samples of materials. To keep the weight low, we're looking at the small units, the 1223s, are going to be roughly dry weight, meaning not stocked with supplies, roughly at about 5,000, 5,500 pounds. The larger units would be double that. So we're looking at 10,000, 11,000 pounds on a larger unit. The subfloor, which I will show you, okay, in just a moment, I'm sorry. The three primary materials are polycarbonate structured sheets for the walls and the roof, timber sill wood for the interior flooring and the wall frame to support the polycarbonate structured sheets, and then obviously an aluminum skeleton. Okay, now timber sill wood is pretty much, well, regular, looks just like regular supply wood, but timber sill wound up doing an interesting thing. They wound up being able to infuse liquid glass into the units, which then causes them to be a lot stronger. So then in essence we would need to use thinner or smaller construction material, smaller pieces, as opposed to conventional 2x4s, 4x2, 2x4s, 1x4s, and so forth. We could actually scale it down, so now we have less weight in lumber per unit. The actual polycarbonate structured sheets are these guys. The white frost is going to be for the roof, and then the bronze is going to be for the walls. Extremely lightweight. I believe I don't want to say facts because it's been a little while, but if I'm not mistaken, 80 mile per hour winds sustained. But the idea is that these guys aren't going in during the storm, they're going after. So what we need is just a facility that's semi-sanitary, so we could go ahead, we could also control the interior temperatures with portable, because we have power supply, we could put portable regular DC plug-in AC units, heaters, depending on where they're going. So so those are the three primary materials, and then the two mechanical materials are obviously solar power and then the hydraulic arms to lift the walls up. These guys, as far as the interior, so taking this apart and showing, the actual timber sill wood is going to be a series of doors on the floor. Because the base is completely sealed, what's going to wind up happening is that's where all the electrical and everything's going to be inside, that all the free space will be full of supplies. Now, when I named them, friends, emergency needs, what it is that each one of them, outside of just the normal electrical and hydraulics, all that space is free. You could actually modify and cater each one for a specific need. For example, the first two maybe of the 1223s, the small ones come in, they can be the emergency room. So underneath the flooring, you would have emergency room supplies. The next one or two that come through can be the ICUs. They could be filled with IV drips, some bedding, obviously monitoring equipment to make sure people are stable and so forth. And then of course the third round can be of just shelter. So food, supplies, blankets, all the necessities needed until you're able to get conventional transportation to the area to evacuate people out. We've seen countless times on TV of people just being stranded in areas where there weren't these types of amenities to help them through the difficult times. So at this point, when you're looking at 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you could start getting people out, at least there's a place to give them shelter. So you can see why it's important for me to go ahead and get these out. We've got in the U.S., I mean, this past year, I don't recall seeing anything on TV, but I know last year we had, the Arkansas tornadoes come through, and the amount of people that go out and help is fantastic. It's awesome to see. But at the same time, what's happening is that sometimes you can't get enough people. So if you can get, 2 to 4 people per smaller unit, to go ahead and just start bringing folks in close to the devastated area, your time, you're gaining time. You have time to help someone, as opposed to setting up structures around perimeters of the devastated regions. Now it's hard. Now you're wasting time going in, trying to find them and then bring them out, when you could just set a couple of these within the area and just start bringing folks on through. So, you know, that's what I've been working on. This is what I've been trying to find partners to join in, because I think it's all of our duty to help out, each other. And I mean, yeah, maybe I built a better mousetrap, but is it viable? Absolutely. Will it work? No question. It's just a matter of getting it done. Will I be able to sell some? Yeah, I think so. Now, it's not one of those things that it's going to happen like we're going to sell 1 million of these and become... No. This is just one stream of revenue, because this is going to open up the other revenues. A couple of samples I've got of polymer resin work, some of the things I've done. This is a big boy coaster, 5.5 inch diameter. This has metallic jade on white sand. Then we've got, we could do sports teams unlicensed, so at least it'll match your man cave. This was for a Gator fan. I had extra of these. I didn't have any extra FSU ones, but I did have, just kidding, but I did have a couple of these samples. They could be done up in any colors. Anything can be put in them. Had a couple of golf clients. This one was popped, so it has an internal crack, but I'll just put my fingers over it. Got some golf tees on top of green sand. You can have a lip on them or not. So obviously there's, a ton of stuff that we can do. Red stones on black sand, white stones on green sand. We could do floral. This particular one was interesting because this one right here is it's all the same, but what I did is I created the color of the ocean with dye specifically made for polymer resins. And then of course I'm a big pen guy, and created my own concrete pocket pens. Great for the pocket. I use it when I'm thinking, just to have something fidget with. And of course those are also made to order, and you could use anything. This is black chain with chrome tip and red what was it? Red velvet like piping on top of black concrete whitewashed black concrete. So yeah, it's interesting stuff, and and to have something personalized, obviously people love that stuff. So this is what I'm working towards. And a couple of things, Friends was not an accident in naming it. Truly during my dark moments in my life after my folks had passed away, and I was a little bit out of sync, they were there for support, and I'll never forget the things that they did for me and my family during those times. Thank you very much. So obviously that kind of support, for me, it was necessary to name them Friends. It really was, because ultimately, we've got some friends coming to help you. And sure enough, we do. As far as the naming, listen, as far as naming them the 1223 and the 4944, that's just for the prototypes, and that's what I need the funding for. The 1223 is actually a total of exterior dimensions, comes out to 375 square feet with 350 square feet in the interior. That could be the 350 unit. The 4944, obviously twice that, 700 square feet interior dimension and 750 feet exterior total. But for me, the reason I wound up naming them this is because at the time when I was looking to put down, 350 and a 700, I was actually sharing pictures with my family overseas. And what wound up happening was I realized that with my parents gone, that I would never have my son have a picture taken with his other grandparents. So these are all their birth dates. Mick is born December 23rd. My mom was born in 49, and my dad was born in 44. So for the time being, this is soothing right here. So, that's just for me. That's just for me. Obviously, it'll be changed around and we'll adjust and adapt, but that's just for an emotional moment for me that I could have them together symbolically. But guys, thank you so very much. Listen, I'm sorry this one took a little bit long, but I hope it gets the message out of what we're looking to do and how we're looking. Like, we've got the products now. If we market it right, start off with this, we'll have some fans, come and order some stuff from us to help support, in what we're doing, and obviously to receive a gift from them made by us to their needs and wants. People just love that kind of stuff, and and I'm happy to be the one who's able to provide that kind of service. Guys, thank you so very much. Have a great weekend. And listen, we are one people, one earth.